Welcome everyone and good morning. Welcome to Norcal PTAC's webinar, How to Do Business with the Government. This is part of a recurring monthly introduction series that we do geared towards small businesses who are just starting out or thinking about starting out in the government contracting sphere. We are really excited to get to the main content today. Just want to introduce ourselves and introduce the center. My name is James Forrest. I am a procurement specialist with Norcal PTAC. And we have Amanda Anderson, who is our program coordinator. So welcome, Amanda. Amanda is going to be helping out in the chat and helping with the Q&A at the end. So thanks, Amanda. Like I said, I just want to talk about our program very quickly. PTAC stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We've been around as a national program since the 70s, but we're actually 96 separate PTAC centers that are independently operated. We have this kind of same funding structure. We get funded by the federal as well as state and local grants, and we are set up to help businesses succeed and compete in the government marketplace. So that is what we do. We're laser focused on that. We don't do general startup assistance. We don't do finding loans and investment and things like that, business plans. We're really focused on procurement. So if you have procurement needs, PTACs are the right centers. You can see a map here. This is just 7 PTACs just in California alone. So you get a sense that there's a lot of PTACs, and we are this green one on the top. And FY21 PTAC served over 56,000 clients and helped them win more than 24 billion in government contracts. So that's a nice, healthy number here. And PTAC is being nationally rebranded. So the PTAC, like I said, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, is going to be replaced with the name Apex Accelerator. And so we will be the NorCal Apex Accelerator program. And so you'll see that starting to make its way into our marketing materials and things like that throughout the next few months. So right now we're still branded as PTAC while we get everything together with our logo and everything like that and hear from our funders. But just so you know, you'll hear NorCal Apex Accelerator or just Apex Accelerators in general. Is same basic services, same free services. So what we can do for you, if you have an established business in our service area, so if you're up and running and you have a location in one of these 15 counties in Northern California that we put on the map here on the right, then you are eligible for one-on-one services. The core of that is we can sit down with you to go over just about any topic related to government contracting. We can do emails, phone calls, Zoom sessions are really helpful so we can share screens. And we'll talk about some of the services we do in a second. We can also set you up with a custom bid matching profile. What that does is it goes out on a lot of different databases on the internet that aggregate bids. So federal, state gets all of those. And it'll also get a lot of the local bids as well from your local counties and cities. And it will see if they match criteria you work out with your procurement specialist to describe what you sell, what your business does. And then it will send those to your inbox every morning with a nice hyperlink. And you can click on it and stay on top of those opportunities. So that's really neat. That's something we pay for and then offer to you for free. And then we're always putting on resources and trainings. You know that because you're here today. And so all of our opportunities for trainings are always free and free to join for anybody. So we have folks from LA and elsewhere here outside of our service area. That's fine. The more the better. Welcome to our webinar today. Our little slice, we talked about 24 billion on the national scale for all the PTACs across the country, but we have a pretty healthy section of that for just being 15 counties here. We helped our clients win more than 500 million or $500 million in 2021. So I think that number is going to probably go up in 2022 and this year as well. So we're always looking to help our clients. Please sign up at norcalptac.org. That's where you will find the application link at the top, apply now. And if you're not in our service area, but this all sounds great to you, please click on that second link there. That is AppTax site will get you to the national directory of all the different PTACs. And just a note, once again, you will receive these slides with all the clickable links. Here's just some examples of what we can help with. SAM registration is a big one. I've done a ton of those. We can help with all kinds of certifications in the state and federal level. We'll talk about these capability statements. I'm not going to go through all of them, but we can help with really just about anything related to government contracting. Just a quick disclosure before we launch into things. The information we're providing here is accurate to the best of our ability at the time of the presentation. It may change. Information procedures have a way of changing in government contracting, and we're not going to send an email to let you know that it's been amended. You'll just have to look at the date and trust us that we've done our best to figure out the correct information at the time. So if you just keep that in mind if you're reviewing this at a later date. But most of what we're talking about today should be generally accurate regardless of when you're watching. So we've already talked about what the PTAC program is. So let's move through the rest of the agenda. We're going to start on a very broad level. Maybe just a note here. This is a very high level webinar, and we have a lot of topics to cover. So it may seem simple, but we're going to move through it pretty quickly, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So just keep in mind that we're recording this session, and you're going to be able to watch back and mine some of this information later. So we're going to have a lot of good resources. Starting on a high level, what is government contracting? So we'll go over that. How to determine if selling to the government is right for you. It's not for everybody. So that's an important determination to make right off the bat. How to get started. So once you've determined that you do want to do it, where do you go from there? Marketing to the government, that is really the meat and potatoes of it. What you're going to be doing in government contracting is marketing and doing market research as well. So where to find bid opportunities, that's the big part of the market research element. And then we're going to go over some steps for success. So stay tuned. As I said, on a broad level, what is government contracting? Well, what is the government? And this may seem a little too basic, but actually we get a lot of confusion about it. What exactly is a government entity? So what counts as government contracting? Well, government entity is a tax-funded entity that helps run society. So I think a lot of people, when they say do business with the government, because we're in the United States, they may mean the federal government. I hear folks say that all the time. But when we say government, we don't just mean the federal government. We're actually talking about anything. Could be the local government. So that could be the city of San Francisco, the city of Eureka, the city of Arcata. That could be the county, Humboldt County, Mendocino County, Alameda, you name it. It could be your state, so California, but we can also help folks do business in Nevada or Oregon. It could be your school district. That's also a government entity. Transportation authorities. Publicly owned utilities even, and we're also talking about Native American tribal governments as well. So anytime that you're contracting with an agency and they are buying a good or a service that you're providing, and you write up a contract and provide that and get paid for it, that's government contracting, and that's something we can help with. There used to be a lot more that was done by the government in-house by government employees. So for instance, just a little historical example here, I won't spend too much time, but back in World War II, they had big naval yards that were building ships. For instance, the Brooklyn Naval Yard, there were 75,000 government employees that were actually involved in building ships. And these days, that's pretty much unheard of. If the government needs a piece of machinery created, it's not usually government employees doing that, it's defense contractors. Third-party companies that they've determined for whatever reasons, whether for efficiency or otherwise, it's better to contract it out to the private sector. So that's actually the overall general trajectory of government contracting, that the more, as time goes on, more and more things are contracted out to private entities, including consultancy. So, used to be the government hired and trained their own experts on topics, and now there's just such a broad array of things that expertise is required in that there's really a lot of opportunity for consultants, which was not necessarily the case 30 years ago. So that's where you come in. There's a lot of contracting opportunities for the likes of you. If you have a small business, there are plenty of opportunities. So we have on this page here, we've got some of the most commonly procured things: construction, public works, that's a huge category. Janitorial, just imagine all the offices that need to be cleaned. Again, we're not just talking about federal, we're talking about state and local. And we have office supplies as well. Same thing goes, rubber bands, staplers, things like that. Paper, and then also firefighting services, especially wildfire vendor support. That's something I help a lot of folks out with. And then on some down here, we have things that are procured a little more rarely. So moving services. So you have to wait until an agency needs to move offices to get an opportunity, but they are out there. I have some moving services clients. Canine units need dog treats. They need collars. They need dog food. They need things like that. So If you supply those things, if you have a pet food wholesaler, you might find some opportunity as well. USDA needs food. All sorts of different commissaries and military bases and prisons, they need food. So if you sell food at a reasonable price, you may have some opportunity. And the government even rents goats for grazing. So sometimes it's cheaper and easier because of the topography or whatever to actually have a goat trim grass or reduce vegetation than have someone on a lawnmower and a weed eater do it. So all kinds of opportunities out there. That being said, some things are a little less appropriate for government contracting and some things are more appropriate. And the way I like to think of this is they're tax funded. So it is your tax dollars. Everything that's procured, it's tax dollars that goes into buying it. So you have to be, if you're a government contracting officer, you have to be really careful. And so Congress has made sure that there's a lot of rules and restrictions that they can be really picky about what kind of things they can buy. So as I mentioned, some things here: public works, architecture and engineering, for those of you who don't know, construction, professional services, office supplies, janitorial. IT is a massive category in government contracting. Medical suppliers and technology, that's extremely common. Transportation, logistics, all kinds of trucking and things like that. Fire suppression, like I said, and of course, defense is a big one as well, especially in the federal level. And some less appropriate industries, anything that's federally illegal. So for instance, cannabis, we're located in Northern California, so we sometimes get requests. We can't help with that, and you're unlikely to find a lot of opportunity in the government. There's restaurants, if you're a food wholesaler or a caterer, you may have some opportunity, but restaurants are really, really tough to get around. Bars, there's all kinds of restrictions on how government can, they usually can't buy alcohol, so that's not great. Entertainment, again, here and there, a possibility, but probably not good to set your business model for government contracting. Well-being and holistic health, not very frequently procured. Clothing retailers, again, clothing wholesalers, depending on the context, maybe in some situations, but not retailers and not luxury items. So that's just something to keep in mind. That being said, some things not, but look at this. This isn't just one state or one agency. This is one location, one site of one agency in one state. And this is what they procure at the Pelican Bay State Prison. So they need food, as I mentioned, food. They need personal care, personal services. They need paper. They need all sorts of IT help. Public works, they need to build things. They need electrical work. So just kind of hopping around here, you can see, wow, there's actually a lot that just this one prison needs. So you ask yourself, do you see yourself as being able to provide something in here? And if so, then that's just one location. So there is quite a bit of opportunity in the government contracting marketplace if you know where to look and you know how to jump through the right hoops, which is something we're going to talk about today. So if you're just new to government contracting, you may have heard the terms prime and sub, a prime contractor and subcontractor, but you might not be super sure on what they mean. So if it's a large project, if it's a small project, you might just get the contract and nobody else involved, just between you and the government. And you would be the prime contractor in that case. But if we're talking about a large project, maybe in the millions or more, typically the government agency is going to go with a large business that has the capacity to administer and fill that project. However, for a number of different reasons, including quotas, the prime contractor may be obligated or may choose to bring in subcontractors. And so even for a large project where it's out of, I can't bid on something that's a $50 million public works project, but you may be able to do some drywall installation or something like that with your team of 1 or 2 people, and you might be able to get on there as a subcontractor. So even if it's not in construction, there may be opportunity for you at a subcontractor, even in the large project. So that's just something to keep in mind and to establish these terms here, prime and sub. I really want to talk about your recipes for success, because that is that's why we're here today. And let me just say, I'm not a salesperson. I don't try to convince people to get into government contracting. I know there's a lot of YouTube resources for folks making big promises for government contracting. I think that the responsible thing to do is to really spend a lot of time asking yourself, Are you ready for government contracting? And running through this checklist and putting a lot of thought into it. We want you to spend your time where you're going to have the most chance for success. And if that's government contracting, then that's great. So there are a couple recipes for success, which we really think are non-negotiable, things you want to be able to do before you can get started. So first is having an established business. So when I say established, I mean you're set up, you've got a business license, you've got some funding, you're actually getting some sales, you file with the Secretary of State, things like that. Hopefully you've got your team hired, you'd like to grow more, but you're already on your way. Some clients would be great if you're in that sort of field. So having an established business is actually required to work with Norcal PTAC, and it is the reason for that is because it's required for government contracting. The only exception there would be if you're doing firefighting vending support. You can pretty much just be an individual and start off as a sole prop if you've got some a truck or a tractor or something like that you'd like to rent out and to put to work on some fires. A business plan that includes government contracting. So this is part of being a really established business is do you have a business plan? And does that business plan factor in government contracting? So that's something that you can work with a small business development center or another business specialist to get that together. Financial stability. So this is an important one. Government contracting is an investment. It's not something, it can be very lucrative, but it's definitely something that you have to put time and energy and AKA money into. And you don't get paid for government contracting projects until after you finish the performance. So, and sometimes you're up to 3 months afterwards. So you got to ask yourself, do you have the capacity, financial capacity, liquidity, and capital to staff and perform on a contract and then wait for payment afterwards? Can you keep your employees being paid the whole time? So it may seem unfair, but that's kind of just the lay of the land of it. You need to invest before you can actually get paid for your project. And past performance. The way I like to think about this bullet point is if you were the government and you were paying with this sensitive taxpayer funds, would you go with a company that had just started out, that they don't have any clients before and they've never had any sales? Or would you go with a company that has a long list of past performance and a proven track record? I mean, I think that's kind of a leading question, because most of us would rather go with the name either that we know or that has shown that they've done work in either the private or the public sector. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a previous government contract. If you're going for a federal contract, it doesn't have to be that you've done business with the federal government before. It could be that you've done business with any government entity. And barring that, it could be that you have your company has done business in the private sector and you have some clients that you'd like to feature there, or a certain number of sales or what have you. And then barring that, if you're a brand new company, you can actually bring in your own personal expertise or of the board or the owners if they've had previous success in the industry. We get some folks, they've been in the industry for 35 years, had all the experience, and then they're starting a new business with a different group of people. And that can still sound good on a contract or on a proposal as past performance. So something to keep in mind in there. Market research, this is really, really important. I think this is underestimated in a lot of people's minds, but so much of what you're going to actually be doing after you get all the certifications and everything like that and your registrations is finding who buys what you sell and pursuing those leads. So market research, really important. We have a lot of resources that we can point you in the right direction for that. And then e-commerce. It's really helpful in this day and age to have a good website. Across the board, I think having a good solid website developed is always worth the investment if you're serious about it. And then for government contracting, it's really helpful if you have a government contracting tab dedicated to a contracting officer or someone like that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We're going to go into detail with most of these things as we go through. So let's say you have answered that for yourself. You've got the capacity, you've got the employees, you're set up, you are committed, you have a business plan. How do you get started? So first, I know I'm a little biased. I'm a procurement specialist with Norcal PTAC, but I really do think that we are kind of the default option for if you need assistance. And we can go through anything really related to government contracting and help you out. We are totally free. We're funded by the federal government. as well as state government. So we are here to help. Apply for us, apply for your local PTAC. It's always a good idea. We can help make it a lot of this really less intimidating to go through. Identify your target agencies. So like I said, it's going to involve a lot of market research, looking through portals, looking through procurement portals, trying to find who has purchased what you sell in the past, and then making a decision about which kind of agency you want to target. So you really want to target just a couple agencies, find the contacts that you need to contact, and pursue those and develop those relationships. Choose your NAICS and UNSPSC codes. If you don't know what those are, that's the North American Industry Classification System. That is what the federal government uses. It's a code series. There's a description and a number which describes different products and services that businesses can sell. And then this one is the United Nations Standard Product Service Codes, and this is used by different countries, but in our purposes, California, the state of California uses these. Same basic idea, just describing what you sell, which is really important for finding opportunities and for marketing yourself. So choose those, figure those out, write them down. You probably should be putting together some data sheets, some spreadsheets and things like that, gathering all your information that you're going to need from government contracting. Register on Cal eProcure. This is the kind of one-stop shop on the California state level. It has contracting opportunities. It's got vendor profile, it's got certification, always a good idea. We can help with that. Same thing for the federal government. It's called SAM.gov, the System for Award Management. Again, this is the one-stop shop. This pretty much everything the same applies. You can certify a small business, you can get registered, get your unique entity ID, the UEI number, and a cage code. These are basically just identifiers the federal government uses to single you out as a contractor that they can put on contracts and things like that. So that if you want to do business with the federal government, then you'll want this. If you just want to do business with the state, you can just get signed up with the Cal eProcure. So that's part of identifying your agencies. If you know you're just going to do state and local, you don't necessarily need to get registered on SAM. I think it's a good idea. It's free. It just requires a bit of effort. But you don't necessarily need to, and vice versa. If you know you're just doing federal contracting, you don't necessarily need to do Cal eProcure. So you can save yourself some time here if you want. And the DSBS, the Dynamic Small Business Search, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. That's just a part of federal contracting. It's a profile that a lot of people miss, that contracting officers use to find small businesses to fulfill their needs. So you would want to put in, it doesn't get filled in by SAM.gov, so you need to go in and fill in your capability narrative, keywords, and past performance. And another thing that a lot of folks don't know about, but it's incredibly common in the government contracting sphere, is to have a capability statement. We're going to talk about that more later, but basically it's a resume for your business. This link here is for our website here, which is going to bring up some information about that. And as I mentioned, make sure your government is website friendly. Your website is government friendly, so we're going to talk about that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and launch a poll here. Poll number 2, because I didn't launch the first. So this is a bit of a leading question here, but if price and convenience were not an issue, let's say in this world where it didn't matter how far you had to drive and how much you had to pay, would you prefer to buy from a small local business, your mom and pop around the corner, or a large online retailer? So that's the first question, and the options are: I would prefer to support the local small business. I would still prefer the large online retailer, and then no preference. And the second question is, if you answered that you prefer a small business, in reality, do you end up buying from the large online retailer instead? So this is in a world where you didn't have to worry about all the matters of convenience. Would you still buy from the small one? And you'll see where I'm going for with this. So I'll give it a couple more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll end the poll here. And I'll just share the results out. As expected, the majority of folks, 85%, would prefer to support the small business. Got a couple folks here and there that would prefer the large one. There's also reasons for that. And some folks didn't really have a preference either way. And really just about everybody said, yes, they sometimes do end up buying from the large online retailer as well. And this is kind of the reality of our modern situation. A lot of us want to support small businesses, but if you're a small business owner, you know the value of supporting your local small business. It's kind of an oft repeated thing that small businesses are the backbone of the American economy, and it's true. However, it can be a lot easier to buy from the big guys for a lot of reasons. And this is really also true for government contracting. So if we're going to switch perspectives here and put yourself in the position of the government. If you're a contracting officer and it's your job to procure a certain resource, it is really could be easier to go to the Walmarts and the Amazons and the Lockheed Martins of the world and just get what you need right from them, and not have to deal with thousands of smaller contractors that may be newer to the process. But it's really important to Congress, it's really important to the American people that we do support small businesses, and not just small businesses, but businesses that are owned by people who have historically been disadvantaged in the sphere of government contracting, where most of the dollars have gone to white men who have owned a lot of these companies. And so there are federal certifications, not just for size, but also for socioeconomic categories, that are basically designed to give disadvantaged companies or small businesses some sort of leg up on the competition, to try to level the playing field. So that's the idea here, that Congress says, okay, it's easy to buy from the big ones, but we want to buy from the small ones. We want to buy from these folks who haven't had a chance to enter in the government contracting sphere. How do we do that? Well, if you get a certification, we will give you a certain price preference, or we'll set aside certain contracts so the only competition is other small businesses or other women-owned businesses. So all of these have some sort of benefits. They all have federal government and state government all have some sort of goals that they want to reach for these. And so it's just kind of a matter of doing some research and figuring out if you qualify for them and if the goal, if the benefit is worth it. And the state of California doesn't have any socioeconomic certifications, but they've got small business at SB, and they've got small business for public works. That's basically, there's a higher threshold. You can make more money. You can be a bit bigger business and still be counted small if you do public works. And that's just because public works requires a lot of capital. It requires, it tends to involve higher dollar amounts. And then the certification they have is the DVBE, or the Disadvantaged Veteran Business Enterprise certification. And that is, if you are, sorry, did I say disadvantaged? Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. And that's the only one that's not size related. And on the federal level, they have all kinds of socioeconomic ones as well. So small business, SB, but also small disadvantaged business, which is something you certify, self-certify in SAM.gov while you're doing your registration. If you are a woman-owned small business or an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, the threshold is pretty high for what counts as ED there in that case. So you can also apply for those. Veteran-owned small business, that's a huge benefit as well. If you are a veteran or a service-disabled veteran, SDVOSB, they have those as well. And then this one's a little bit different. This is actually based on not the identity of the owner, but the location of the business and the employees that work for you. This is the hub zone, the historically underutilized business zone. And that's you get a price preference as well for that. The 8A is a little bit different as well. This is not just a certification, but a whole business development program geared towards disadvantaged businesses. So presumed minorities are presumed disadvantaged in the sphere, and women may apply as well if you can provide evidence. And then the disadvantaged business enterprise, this is kind of a hybrid between a federal and a state certification. Federal government mandates that every state needs a DBE certification, and every state makes their own version of it, basically. But it's something you can get if you are a disadvantaged business and you would like to perform on contracts that get Department of Transportation money. So really helpful if you're going to work with Caltrans, for instance, if you want to work with BART or other transportation agencies that may be getting some federal funding. Okay, I know this is a lot. Again, this is a very high level where you're going to have an opportunity to reach out to us, ask questions, apply for services, and go into more details about it. So we've talked about state, we've talked about federal. I think local often gets left aside in the conversation about the contracting. And we try to run against that pattern a little bit at Norcal PTAC. We think local contracting is a great way to start out, to get your feet wet, so to speak. Prove that we've even put a cute puppy getting a bath here. So local means, first of all, what does it mean, right? It's your city, it's your county, it's your school district, it's transportation districts that run the trains and the buses around you. There can be a lower threshold for entry. Basically, smaller projects that you might be able to have an easier time performing on, whereas the federal ones might be huge. You might actually be able to win as a prime contractor, even if you're kind of a little earlier on in your stage. Still a lot of competition, but imagine the difference between a federal project, imagine something where it's not geographically based, it's just a kind of a service, IT service or something like that. Well, there's 350 million people in the in the United States, tens of thousands of small businesses. That's a lot of competition is on a federal contract like that. But if you live in a city like San Francisco, about 800,000, or Eureka, which is 25,000, and a solicitation comes up, well, your competition is likely to be just a few people, at least in the Eureka case. So a lot less competition. That being said, the dollar amounts are smaller, and so you're not likely to win quite as much money working on local contracting, but that's why we think it's a great way to get started. And it can really help gain past performance with contracting, even if it's not going to make you a millionaire right off the bat, although you may also get super rich doing it. That kind of depends on the opportunity. Local agencies, this is something I really want to stress, they all use their own procurement systems. So where federal government, it has a lot of procurement processes. It can be pretty difficult to get through a lot of them to figure it all out, pretty complex. Federal acquisition regulation is what they use to govern how government contracts are issued, and it's a tome. It's the big thick book. So that's going to be a lot simpler on the county or the city and state level. However, Alameda County is different than Humboldt County. Mendocino County is different from Napa County. They all have different procurement systems. So you're going to have to do a lot of research to figure out signing up on different vendor profiles, different portals, finding different bid opportunities. And there's very few resources that put all of them together. So that's one of the nice things that our bid match profile actually can do for you. It helps get some of those, but it won't get all of them. So that's just something to keep in mind, that kind of the Wild West out here with local contracting. Every town does something a little bit different. So that's definitely that burden falls on you to figure out how to navigate all of that. But there may be some local preference. It may be explicit. So for instance, San Francisco has a local business enterprise certification. That's something you can get and gives you a price preference. Alameda County has one similar. I know there's a number of counties in our service area that do. Plenty of cities and counties don't have something like this though. So there's no certification you can get. However, I mean, I think that there may be just an implicit benefit if they see that you're located around the corner, and they see that it's your competitor who has a similar price bid, maybe a little lower, is out of the state. They may be able to exert some sort of executive control to steer the contract towards you, depending on the terms of the opportunity they're looking for. So you can actually find a list of a bunch of local agency procurement websites that we have put together that we keep updated as much as possible. That's on our website. Click on this when you get it. It's under the resources tab on norcalptac.org. All right, so we're going to go over some of these more in-depth topics of specific things to prepare. And again, all of this resource, we have webinars on each of these specific things, and we've got tabs on our website as well. Capability statement, also known as a SOQ or a statement of qualifications. Make sure to call it a capabilities statement, not a capability singular statement, because you have more than one capability in any case, even if you just sell one thing. So this is basically a resume for your business. It's going to be one page, but printed out. It should be front and back. So digitally, it doesn't really make a difference. So you can do 2 pages, but you want it really brief. Easy to read, brief. If you've ever reviewed resumes, you know you want to be right to the point. You can create multiple versions to target different agencies. So as I mentioned, federal government uses NAICS codes, California uses UNSPSD code. If you want to target just the California government, use the latter and not the former. And so put those codes on there so it's a little less congested, for instance, and highlight different capabilities for different kind of projects you're going for if you have multiple ones. So a lot like a resume, if you're applying for a job, I mean, this is not a course on how to write a resume, but it's a good idea to tailor your resume for every job you apply for. Same thing with the capability statement. We have a webinar on this that we did a couple years back. It's all still relevant. Please click there if you want to find out. Just a couple things here to include. Intro paragraph, core competencies. So what do you do? Differentiator. So what sets you aside from your competition? Again, these are a couple sentences maximum. Some key clients and past performance. Who's your current clients? Who have you worked with before? Try to wow us with that as much as possible. Bios for the owners and executive officers and things like that. Codes and certifications. So definitely brag about whatever certifications you have. And of course, contact information, website. And you can even put photos on there to make it look nice. So this is the marketing tool. You want it to look nice. You want it to be easy to read. You want it to pop out from your competition. We have a free template you can use here. You can just click on the link when you get it and download it. Again, this is all on that website we have. And you can just fill in your information here, add your logos, maybe change the colors, rearrange things if you want. There are thousands of templates though. If you just Google capability statements template, you will come up with a lot of options here. But this is just sort of our version. Just keep in mind, it says DUNS number here. We haven't updated that. DUNS number is not frequently used anymore. The federal government now uses the UEI number. So just something to keep in mind. I mentioned we get a lot of questions about this actually. A lot of folks are curious what we mean by a government contracting ready website. So I've gone and done some screenshots and things like that. We're going to go through it. First of all, you have a website. That's good. Your website's updated and it's relevant. It has a government contracting tab. Now, this is a really pro move. It's going to make you look good if a contracting officer or a purchasing assistant goes to your website and they find basically a tab that says, hi, I'm waiting for you to come and do business with me. And I know what you need to see that's different from the private sector because it's a different landscape of private versus public contracting. So you're going to want to put your capability statement in a PDF and you can have a link to download. Again, kind of similar things that you would put on your capability statement, just have it right there on the web page, registration, certifications, all your codes, your performance history, things like that, and then make it really easy to navigate. So we don't leave you guessing here about what that means. We've had a couple examples here. First one, this is not an endorsement. This is just a consultancy here, which had a nice government contracting tab. And as you can see, one of the tabs here is government contracts. They have a brief overview, current and previous projects. They've listed that out pretty clearly. And if you scroll down to learn more, read our capability statement. And this is the linked, hyperlinked thing, and it's really clear. So that's a nice way of framing it. Here's someone else, Ken Hifla. They have put some of the logos of their clients that they work with. So that's great as well. You can look at this and, oh, wow, great. They've worked with U.S. for Army Corps of Engineers, Forest Service, NOAA, USDA. That's great. This is something we don't need to go into, but a GSA contract is a nice thing. If you sell, especially if you sell supplies and services like consulting, it makes it easy for the federal government to buy things from you. And then they put their NAICS codes. So that's really great. They've listed all the numbers as well as the descriptions, and they've listed out. It's really clear for a contracting officer to see what it is you do. So these are all just kind of steps for success, things that you want to do in order to have success in the government marketplace, and they're things that we can help you with. So hopefully you don't feel overwhelmed going through all of this, but you really want to spend a lot of your time marketing to the government. So once you find who buys what you sell, you want to find how to get them to buy what you sell. So first, developing a marketing plan to target agencies and primes who buy what you sell. So this is something you want to work with your procurement specialist with, or with your procurement team. And then find out how to network with government agencies. We've been talking about that a lot, how to do this. Going to events is a great idea. So like attending expos, if you ever see anything about a matchmaker for government contracting, definitely do that. We've done them in the past. We'll do them again in the future, but not this year. Any sort of conference with the government is a great idea to attend as well. Don't forget, just behind all of the red tape, behind the paperwork and the forms and the websites, certifications are human beings whose hands you can shake and whose eyes you can look into and whose phones may ring and they may pick them up if you're lucky. So it's a really good idea to make those connections, develop the relationships, and get on people's radar. Practice your elevator speech so you're ready to go to talk about what makes your company special and what sort of problems the government may have that you're ready to solve. So try to think about what you can do for them, not just about what makes you so great, but how you can help them. And that's really going to be music to their ears a lot. So participating in any sort of training, so like the one you're doing today, always a great idea, but Caltrans, all sorts of government agencies are putting on trainings. I said Caltrans because they're doing their boot camp webinar series, contractors boot camp this week as well. And so these are always good things to attend. Social media in this day and age, especially LinkedIn, you're going to find contracting officers and small business representatives and all sorts of different folks on LinkedIn. So it's not a bad idea to keep that updated and to reach out there as well. Small business representatives, there are people in the employ of the federal and state government whose entire jobs are dedicated around reaching out to you, to finding folks that are small businesses that are being underutilized. So you definitely find lists of them, work with your procurement specialist to find who they are and what agency you're looking for, and reach out to them. And dynamic small business search. I mentioned this earlier. This is a bit of an addendum onto the information you put in your SAM registration, and filling all that in with having a good capabilities narrative and keywords and things like that will really look good for a contracting officer on the federal level when they're trying to find you, finding services that you sell. So marketing, there's marketing yourself to the government, and there's where to find the opportunities to actually bid on. And these are two separate but related things. As I mentioned before, we've got this website of ours, the local agency website, that we've put a nice long list of them with all their procurement websites. And as I said, they all have different ones. So it can be a bit difficult to find the right resource. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you. If you are going to work on a larger project and you'd like to work as a subcontractor, some people work as subcontractors exclusively for decades. So a lot of what we do is help folks as a subcontractor as well. So I never want to kind of skip over that part. So you're actually, it's a different thing working as a subcontractor because you're not marketing to the government. They don't have a say in it. They may have a goal or something like that. They say you have to, the prime contractor has to set aside 25% or 50% of the project for subcontract, but you're actually, your task is to reach out to the prime contractors who are bidding on the project. That can be a challenge because you don't know exactly who's going to bid unless you have the right contacts. So having the right contacts is really helpful, but also finding who's won these sort of contracts in the past. And oftentimes you'll know the big construction companies in your area if you're doing construction, for instance, or janitorial companies, and reach out to them. And a lot of the large primes will have vendor signups where you can sign up as a contractor and they'll reach out to you if they need anything. So definitely keep in mind that you can do that sort of research and reach out. Cal eProcure, they call them events. These are opportunities, bid opportunities, request for proposals, request for quotes, things like that. SAM, same thing. SAM and Cal eProcure are very similar in a lot of ways. SAM also has, it's not just where you get your certification for small business, it's not just where you sign up as a, to get your UEI, it also has a large repository of contracts. So if you click on that link when you get it, you're going to go to sam.gov with the opportunities. You'll find all the federal contracts that are over the acquisition threshold there as well. Acquisition.gov, this is unlike, it doesn't have the current current opportunities. It's got upcoming forecasts. So that's a great way to find, if you really want to get in depth, to find what the government will buy in the future. And they try to plan that out as much as possible. And so these are federal websites here. And you can find opportunities quite often through associations like builders exchanges and maybe even chambers of commerce and things like that. And of course, if you sign up with us, we can get you hooked up with our bid matching service. So I want to leave you plenty of time for questions. So just want to go over your 10 steps for success. Number 1, determine if you're ready for government contracting. And again, I just want to say, I'm not a salesperson. I don't want you to get in government contracting unless you are totally ready. So determine that, put some serious thought into that. Do you have the capacity? Do you have the financial stability? Do you have the team? Do you have the support? Do you have the time and energy to get into government contracting? If you are, great. If you're not, you can work towards that, or you can make plenty of money in the private sector. A lot of folks can do that as well. If you need some hand-holding or need anything else, please reach out to us to apply for services. Even if you feel like you understand the lay of the land pretty well, we can really kind of help cross your T's and dot your I's and make sure everything looks good for government contracting representatives. Complete the getting started checklist that we went through before. You can also find it on our website. It's a good idea. Get certified for whatever you can. So probably most of you in the audience will be eligible for small business certifications on the federal as well as the state level. But if you're a woman, you might be eligible for the WOSB, for instance, if you're a veteran, the VOSB or the DVBE. If you're a minority-owned business, the 8A program or the MBE. So there's a lot of different certifications that may give you some benefit in the government marketplace as well. Create your capability statement, which we just went over not too long ago. Again, it's a resume for your business. This is something, in case I wasn't clear, something that you're going to be sending out to potential buyers in the government marketplace. So that's a good idea. Update your website, get that government contracting tab if you can. It's a real pro move. Network, build relationships, and market your business. So that's what I was talking about actually getting to know folks, identifying your agencies, and focus on those individuals. It's going to be hard to get through to folks, but use phone, email, in person, attend whatever you can, shake some hands. If you are comfortable in this not quite post-COVID era, feel free to stay masked, but locate bid opportunities. So this could be finding federal or state websites. We've got a listed on our website as well. And of course, very few people win their first contracts. Once they find the contract that they think works for them, they'll put in all the time and efforts to prepare a proposal, they'll put it in, and they lose. And it can be disheartening until you realize that very few people actually win your first contract. So it is about failing, learning from your mistakes, doing some research on what you did right, what you did wrong. You can be debriefed quite often from government contractors, and then try again. And so a lot of this is about persistence. And then eventually, ideally, you'll be winning some contracts. So that's what we're here for today, is to help you out. We want to help you succeed. And this is a little snapshot of our team here. You sign up at Norcal PTAC. We are happy to help. We cover all sorts of different capabilities on our team. So we would love to see you. We have some time for questions now. Please put your questions in the Q&A rather than the chat. The chat is a little bit harder to follow when we have a lot of folks in the audience, just a little bit harder to follow the questions. The Q&A is dedicated for this purpose, so it's really nice. And Amanda's going to be helping out with that. But we do have quite a few upcoming events. I'll be traveling down to the Bay Area. One of our procurement specialists and I are going to be putting on a how to do business with the state. Sorry, I got ahead of myself here. That is actually the third one down there, how to do business with the government. That's this same webinar. So if you have a friend that would prefer to go in person, or if you'd like to meet me, feel free to go to this one in San Francisco, Thursday, March 9th, 10 to 11:30 in the morning. It's going to be at the SF Permit Building in downtown near the Civic Center. But let me go back up to the top here. I got excited about going to San Francisco. But we are having an in-person event in Eureka, which is where I live. So that is how to do business with the state of California. We have a representative from the California Department of General Services who's going to be presenting on just state contracting tips. That's on Thursday, February 23rd at 10 in the morning. And then Amanda's been busy organizing Women in Construction Week. This is 3 webinars, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, March 6th through 8th. And they're 10 to 11 a.m. each. Lots of great information and some panelists booths. So please check these all out. They are always free and free for everyone to join. All right, let us jump into questions. And I just want to say again, I know that this has been like drinking water from a fire hose. This is a lot of information, a lot to go over. So it's not meant to get you into the expert level, but just to sort of give you an overview so you can dive a little deeper. Let's see what sort of questions we have.
Fantastic. So we do have quite a few questions. The first one comes from Gabriella, and she was wondering, where exactly are the prospective contractors supposed to upload their capability statement? And where would you definitively recommend having their capabilities statement?
Yeah, okay. So Gabriella, there's the capabilities statement, which is a resume for your business, and then you're going to use that as a marketing tool, and you may be requested for that. But there's also the capabilities narrative in the dynamic small business search, and those, because it has the word capabilities in it, can be confused sometimes. But so the capabilities narrative is something that you will need to enter into the dynamic small business search, and the way you'll do that is through the general login system, the GLS, and it's kind of an odd system. You have to sign up through the GLS, get your username, password, and then go into click on access, and then request a role for SBA ProNet. So it's a little bit odd. We can certainly, we have a webinar on how to do that. We can also do it with you during a session, or if you're outside of our service area, any local PTAC representative should be able to help you out with that as a client. So it is a little bit odd to find it. Feel free to peruse on our website. If you go to our resources and past webinars, and you can type in market research for the dynamic small business search, then you'll be able to find that out.
Fantastic. And Rose Hunt was asking where we can sign up for help with the SBIR program, and if you think 56 days is enough time to complete the application.
Great question, Rose. SBIR, for folks that don't know, is for technology and innovation. It's technically a grant, but it's related to government contracting. And we have actually a sister program in our under our host structure. We're hosted by Cal Poly Humboldt up in Arcata, and they're called the Tech Futures Group, or they go by TFG, and they're located in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, and we refer clients who need SBIR help over to them. I couldn't say how long it takes to complete an application effectively. That's going to depend on if you're going for phase 1 or phase 2 or the fast track, or where your business is, or if you've done these sort of things before. So that would be a good thing to sit down with one of those counselors and work out. You can also, if you're not in a service area, you can reach out to your local PTAC and ask the same question for a local resource.
Awesome. And then we have a question from Terrence, wondering if there are any advantages to employing veterans in the sense of like the veteran-owned certification. And maybe the owner's not a veteran, but he employs veterans very often.
That's another great question, Terrence. Thanks for that. I am not aware of any sort of official benefit for government contracting of having an executive role, or like as a veteran. I think that they're really targeted towards the ownership of the company. So I'm not aware of anything that would stand out for an employee who's a veteran.
All right, and then we do have a couple of folks who are asking about getting on a GSA schedule. Do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend, or a good place to start with that?
Getting on a GSA schedule is an advanced contracting move. So there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to get on a GSA schedule. A lot of paperwork. So you shouldn't, I mean, maybe you're in the advanced stage. We have all kinds of folks that join these webinars. So if you have all of your federal contracting infrastructure in place, all registrations and everything, and you're getting some business and all your certifications, you can work with a PTAC procurement specialist to work towards actually submitting an application to get on the GSA schedule. For those of you who don't know, GSA schedule is kind of interesting. They call it a schedule, but it doesn't have to do with time. Basically, what it is it's a really fast-tracked procurement portal. So basically, it's like Amazon for government contracting for the federal government. So a contracting officer can go on the GSA website, GSA Advantage, and they can scroll through and they'll see a list of products. They can search by keyword and different filters. and they can just click on a product and it says, oh, this is a veteran-owned business, this is the women-owned business, here's how much you charge per unit, and you can just click on that and click buy. So it's a way of fast tracking purchases that are usually smaller purchases under the micro purchase threshold. And you can make quite a bit of money on it if you do the right kind of marketing. Getting on a GSA schedule has its advantages. It's not guaranteed. Just like you can list something on Amazon and not have it purchased. But it's definitely an advanced contracting move, and it is hard to get on a GSA schedule. I don't have any sort of broad tips other than only proceed down that path once you're ready, and reach out to a specialist to help you out.
Fantastic. And then Rose actually wanted to follow up about the Tech Futures group and how to apply with them. Do they have to go through PTAC to be referred to Tech Futures?
Great question, Rose. We want to make sure you understand how to get involved with the resources you need. You can apply directly for Tech Futures Group without going through PTAC. If you apply for us, we can also send you in the right direction, but certainly that's an extra step if you don't intend to take advantage of our resources. Just go on and type in Tech Futures Group. They are a part of the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center program in the NorCal region. So that might give you a little bit more information, but with just a simple Google, we'll find you the Tech Futures Group. Just make sure it's the one that's in San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know if there's others elsewhere, but feel free to apply for them directly.
Awesome. And then we are running a little bit short on time, but I do see one more question in the chat from Hunter. He's asking if you have any suggestions for speeding up the SAM registration process, as we all know it has been quite slow recently.
Yes, so there's been big changes in the SAM registration sphere in the last year. April of 2022, they switched from using DUNS, which is DUNS numbers were administered by Dun & Bradstreet, which was a third-party company. And say what you want about that process, which they had for years and years. They switched to a UEI, the unique entity identifier. And theoretically, it's great. Everything's done in-house. The UEI is their own database. The rollout has been difficult, and it's been difficult because even companies that have been registered in SAM for years now had to revalidate. And so this validation issue is a lot of the struggle that a lot of my clients have been going through, is trying to find you need documents to prove your start date, your legal business name, your DBA, and your state of incorporation. And getting those documents together, some folks, their company was established. One client was 1890, and it was great grandfathers, and they don't have the information to prove those sort of things. And but even simpler things of just making sure that you have a dedicated physical address. The Cage office will look into the address that you use for your SAM registration. And it can't be a PO box, it can't be a co-working space, it can't be a virtual space. A lot of folks, for privacy reasons, have their articles of incorporation and things like that, their EIN letters and all of that set up with an address that's not their actual physical office or home office. So it just needs to be a physical address. That I'm kind of zeroing in on that because a lot of clients that have an issue with that. So the validation step can be difficult. It's definitely something we can troubleshoot. And it takes them a few days every time you submit something, or sometimes longer. And then that's the first step. Once you get past validation, you're going to be going into the registration. And there are a lot of different sections to go through. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but if you apply for Norcal PTAC or your local PTAC, we can really kind of cut through that like a hot knife through butter, getting through the SAM registration. You can share your screen, log in, and we will tell you, demystify a lot of the strange questions that they have on sam.gov to just get right to your registration pretty quickly. So, as far as overarching tips, I hope I give you something to walk away with. But really, a lot of it's just about getting through into those FAR clauses and strange questions that they're asking you in SAM registration. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Fantastic. And then James, if you want to go ahead and leave us on this last question, Javier is wondering how to get in touch with a PTAC specialist.
Great question. And on this slide here, you have our phone number, 707-267-7561. That will reach our program assistant or our program coordinator, who is Amanda here. And our info at norcalptac.org email address, that will reach us as well. But if you're wondering how to actually sit down and have a meeting with us, a virtual meeting, you can save yourself some time and go right to our website, norcalptac.org. And this is if you're in our service area, the 15 counties in Northern California, then you'll be able to just click on a red Apply Now button at the top, and just proceed through the application status and submit that way. And we'll be in touch with you, and we set you up with a procurement specialist. So you do need to apply before you work with a procurement specialist, and that will be the case across the board for any PTAC. So if you're not in a service area, you're somewhere else, don't worry, we all provide the basic same core services, and you'll find a directory of all of PTACs across the country at this second link, aptac-us.org. I also find that you can just Google your county and your state and just write the words PTAC. But just keep in mind, like I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we are going to be changing our name to Apex Accelerator. So that verbiage could also be used when you're searching pretty soon. All right, great. I think that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much for really great questions today. And I know again that we really go through these topics pretty quick in these intro webinars. I hope it's useful for you. The design is to whet your appetite, to give you an overview, to give you points to know where you can look into it deeper. So no one's going to come away from this as an expert, but hopefully some things have been demystified and you understand where you need to start and what kind of questions to ask yourself. And you know how to get in touch with some of the resources, for instance, PTAC. So hope to see you at future webinars or in-person events. They're coming. I hope to see everyone later. Thank you so much. Thanks, Amanda.